Hello everybody who is watching Second Chances talk show. Second Chances is a new talk show that is here to give women another chance in life. We believe in second chances, and this is why we've created Second Chances. Second Chances is a new talk show that has been created to give you a second chance in life. We believe that you deserve a second chance despite your mistakes in life, despite anything that you're going through. We believe you deserve a second chance. You might not feel like you deserve a second chance, but we believe in second chances. And so we have created this platform for you to come and share your story and to allow yourself to have another chance in life. Second chances starts from within yourself. It starts from forgiving yourself, because we believe that a lot of the times people go through pain and through hurt because they haven't forgiven themselves for what they have done wrong in the past. And I believe second chances start from within. You have to forgive yourself in order for you to heal and in order for you to have that second chance in life. Second Chances is a new talk show that has been created to change the view and the perception of life that has been created in our community and our society today. We want to let women know that there is hope, and we want women to know that there is freedom in life, and we want them to know that you can make it. You might have gotten loads of no's, but we're here to tell you that your no can become a yes, and you have to believe in yourself in order for you to have a second chance in life. And I've heard so many stories of so many people that have gone through hard times, and I believe in second chances. I believe, in giving somebody that you hate the most another chance in life, because think of this way: if that was you, would you not want anybody else to give you that chance in life? And I also come to that conclusion that who are we to judge others? Because again, look at yourself in that situation. Would you not deserve another chance? I know sometimes you've come a long way where you have vowed in your heart that I will never forgive him because he has abused my child. I will never forgive him because she has cheated on, she has taken my husband. But you know what? Sometimes in life, people make mistakes, and I believe that it's not fair to not give them that chance in life. So today I'm here with Belle, and her story is an amazing story. She God has given another chance in life, and this is why today she can come and share her story. She suffered from eating disorder for over 10 years, and she has defeated the disease, and she's here, and she's looking beautiful. And I hope her story today to anybody who's suffering from eating disorder can change your life. So let's come and talk to Belle and see what she has to say about her amazing story of overcoming eating disorder. Good afternoon, Belle. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
I like the lipstick. What is the brand?
What is the brand? I think it's Rimmel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that from
I like
MAC?
Rimmel. Sorry?
Is that from MAC or L'Oreal?
I'm not sure actually. I think Rimmel is a UK brand.
Is it
or
UK
something?
brand?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
could be wrong.
Oh, cool.
But, yeah. I like it.
Fantastic. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how it all started? Like, how you developed eating disorder.
Okay. Yep. So, probably from when I was about 12, I'd say it started. Many different factors played into it. So peer rejection, which then led to self-rejection, being bullied. I was a soft target. My parents didn't really buy me amazing clothes. I was stressed.
Parents, please buy your children nice clothes. Which is always the case, isn't it?
I know. So bless them, they just didn't have the money. It's fine. But yeah, so I was bullied, and
I wish I could have a picture of your kind of outfits. Can you describe how?
Oh, horrible! Like frills and
Christmas dresses.
bows and Christmas dresses, like ugly.
Like the big ones.
Yeah, it's horrible. Wow. Anyway, so that was a bit sad. But so that obviously then I was bullied, and I also didn't have a very good relationship with my dad.
Before we talk about the relationship with your dad, you mentioned self-rejection. How did you come to that conclusion that What's self-rejection? How did you develop that self-rejection?
It's quite interesting, and I think it's something that people have to learn to fight, because that is something that's a choice. But if you are consistently rejected, or you don't feel loved due to different circumstances, you then learn to reject yourself. So you then don't love yourself, basically, because you think, I'm not lovable because other people are loving me. So then you stop loving yourself almost.
Okay. Do you feel like that's what happens to a lot of young people these days? Self-rejection that causes eating disorder.
Yeah.
So do you think self-rejection is self-control, trying to find control within yourself, and the only way you can control yourself is by rejecting yourself, and that is basically starving yourself to death?
Yeah. I mean, it comes in different forms. So people with self-rejection could be suicidal, because they don't like themselves. They could be cutting themselves. They could be, there's lots of different things. I think it starts sort of in the teens.
Okay.
That manifests sort of a lack of self-love or self-acceptance.
Okay.
And so, yeah, eating disorders is definitely one of them.
And would you say it's peer pressure as well, of fitting in as well?
Yeah, or feeling that you're not fitting in. Yeah, both, definitely.
Okay.
I think there's different, I think eating disorders are caused by so many different things, but mine was a little bit different to most people.
So you starved yourself?
It was kind of, it sort of started with, so when I was depressed and I was miserable, and really didn't like myself, it was a form of suicide. So I wasn't doing it, I was always thin, so I didn't think that I was overweight. For me it was more kind of
to take your life away.
Yeah, it was kind of like self-harm. So it was I want to die, I'm not going to eat. So I was very depressed and very suicidal for a very long time.
How long did it go on before anybody could find out what was going on? That's one. And then two, how many days would you go without eating? Because for me, 24 hours is such a long time. I'm so hungry, and I can't imagine anybody going through days without eating. How does it feel like?
So, again, it was probably quite unusual in the sense of and this is how no one really knew. No one ever picked it up, actually. Well,
at all?
Not really. So how people wouldn't know is that, my family, for example, is that I'd come to the dinner table, or I'd come have breakfast or lunch, but I would eat a tiny little bit and I'd throw the rest away. So I never not ate, but I ate so little. So just have a little bit, and I'd be like, hey Mom, I'm full, can I throw it away? And I would throw it away. So I would, wasn't eating enough, really, dangerously too little. And then my mother would pack me sandwiches or lunch and I'd bring it to school, and I wouldn't eat it. And so my friends at school noticed, and only later when I look back, I was like, that's why they were always offering me their food. I thought, wow, they're so kind. They'd be like, oh, we got cake, do you want some cake, Belle? And I'd be like, oh, we got a nice sandwich, do you want a sandwich? Or they were always offering me food, and I never realized it's because they knew I wasn't eating. They were aware that I wasn't actually eating lunch. At school I was throwing it away. And I didn't know that I had an eating disorder. I just wasn't aware, because I was like, well, I don't think I'm overweight, so I'm not trying to lose weight, I'm not dieting.
Did you know about any, did you know that eating disorder existed at that time?
Yeah, I knew. I mean, they taught us about bulimia and anorexia at school, but because I felt I didn't have either of those, I never really saw it as eating disorder. My doctor called me out on it a few times, and he was like, are you eating? You look like you have an eating disorder. And I was like, I eat. I was like, I don't think I'm fat. So
you was denying the fact that you didn't have eating disorder.
Yeah, I didn't, and I kind of didn't realize I had one. It's so strange, but it was really bizarre. I think only as I got older I started realizing, oh, actually this is what's happening. And then so as I sort of became into my teens, I sort of realized, okay, when I was happy, then I'd eat lots, and because I have a high metabolism, and I wasn't eating very much, I would become quite skeletal. So then I would feel bad, and I'd be drinking lots of weight gain milkshakes, and so that sort of went through my family, because that's why they never really clocked that I had an eating disorder, because I'd be like, I want to gain weight, I'm too thin, let me have some weight gain milkshakes. But that was when I was happy. But when I was sad or miserable, then I would like restrict my eating again or not eat much at all, like barely anything. And so it was a sort of constant battle kind of going around that I kind of struggled with for about 10 years.
Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and you thought yourself ugly, fat?
I never, yeah, I didn't think I was beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I know sometimes I look in the mirror and I'd be like, didn't always like what I saw, but yeah, I think for me it was more how I felt inside, if that makes sense.
Because so for you, it wasn't about the way you looked, it's about how you felt inside.
It was the pain inside that I felt, and that was sort of manifesting through my not eating was because of the pain in my heart.
And can you tell us a little bit about your pain in the heart? Like what happened for you to have pain at a very young age?
Well, I think, so yeah, it was the pain of obviously being bullied at school, not feeling like I have any friends, so the peer rejection, and then also just didn't really have a father that was around. He was there in person and body, but not so much in kind of, like he didn't speak, if that makes sense. So he wouldn't really talk to me. We didn't actually have a relationship. He was just someone who lived in my house, and that was a lot to do with the fact that he had been rejected by his own father, and his own father adored his sister, and she was like the perfect child, and then sort of hated him, and so he vowed he would never do that. And then all he ended up doing was reversing it, so adoring my brother and treating.
You became the rejected one.
Yeah, and I became the rejected one. And also, so the same thing happened with my mom, and that her sister was sort of put on a pedestal. My grandmother loved her, adored her, she was the best thing ever, and my mom was very much thrown to the side. So these two people that had been rejected by their own family then got married and carried their rejection into their children. And I think that does happen a lot, where even if it's unintentional, who you are is very much communicated to your children when they grow up. They
That's
pick
so
that up.
true, because I think the other day when I was doing a research on for the You Are Beautiful project and research on low self-esteem, a survey said that 1 in 5 young girls suffer from eating disorder, and I guess they also mentioned that it comes from their parents. It's instead of the parents telling their children that they're beautiful, they're busy trying to sort themselves out. So it's an issue that starts from their family and their mothers especially. You have mothers who've grown up with issues that they've never spoken about, and so therefore it affects their children, and they don't realize it. And I remember last year when we did the You Are Beautiful project for the Teen Beautiful magazine that is coming up very soon. We realized that I sat there, Vel, and I said, wow, where are the parents? Where are the parents? We had a case of a beautiful young lady who said that, I want to be a boy. And she said it so boldly that being a boy is so easy. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about your looks. And I had another girl, she said she started year 7. She started wearing makeup at the age of year 3. And she said that that's because that's how the community accepts you with makeup. And it made me think, I was saying to my colleagues, where are the parents in all of this?
Yeah.
Wow. So saying what you're saying is bringing back memories to the fact that, wow, so the issue really is the parents.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just a cycle. So, people who are already broken then get married, have children, and that cycle of brokenness continues. And so the thing I've always realised is that people can't give what they don't have.
Wow.
And so parents can't give to children to their children what they don't have. So if they're struggling with self-love, they can't communicate self-love to their
Because
children.
they don't know how to.
Because they're struggling themselves to really love themselves. So it's the cycle that just keeps going around. And so that's obviously why, people need help and guidance and sort of how to get free and how to learn to love themselves. And I think it's great that nowadays there's a lot more self-help out there. There's a lot more, courses like You're Beautiful and all these things, which is great because that sort of empowers teenagers to be different, to break the cycle.
Yeah, because we never had that when we were growing up, didn't we?
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, that makes a big difference. I mean, I think for my story is more, I had a very sort of real encounter with God that really changed my life.
Wow. You had a real encounter with God. For a lot of people that don't know about an encounter, can you tell us what that means before you can go deeper? Because people are thinking encounter.
What does that mean?
Yeah, because I know when I was reading your story, and it's you were like, God is the one that healed you at an encounter with God, and I was just like, wow, that's amazing. Like a first time hearing, I've heard it, but like to actually sit down with somebody and tell me that they've had an encounter with God, it's amazing and it's beautiful, because not a lot of people speak about their encounters. So can you tell us a little bit about what is an encounter and how that made you feel, how you knew that was God?
So I walked this sort of difficult path of life where my uncle committed suicide, and that my family were quite thrown by this. And
how old was he?
My uncle, when he died, I think he was 40 maybe.
40?
No, in his 30s, 30s or 40s.
Okay.
When he died, and then so my cousins obviously were devastated. They lost their dad and they were quite young. And so my cousin then, this led him to God, where he sort of in desperation was like, is there life after death and all this? And he then suddenly became a Christian, and saw this cousin.
Before he died?
So it was my uncle who committed suicide.
Okay.
And so my cousin lost his father.
Okay, which is your uncle?
Yeah, which is my uncle.
I get it now. Okay.
And so my family were really sad. Obviously, it was very traumatic, and a big shock. And so my cousins didn't obviously take it very well, which is understandable. And so then eventually my cousin sort of found God, and I noticed this change in him, and suddenly he was happy and he was glowing, and I was like, I want that. And what would you have? Because I was struggling with depression and self-hatred and like not a happy girl. Just struggling as a teenager. Who am I? Am I worth anything? Not feeling like I'm worth anything. Not feeling beautiful, like you said. Not feeling special. Just feeling lost in the crowd. Basically, that's how I felt.
Like you don't fit in. Like you don't belong. It's like almost you felt like different.
Yeah,
and you had to try so hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's funny you just said that about different. I think somehow I always knew that I was different to other people, in the sense that I kind of knew that like there was a calling on my life that was not going to look the same as everyone else.
That's it. But then I guess growing up, you don't know the reason. Yeah. You don't know anything about God, and you don't know about cause. So therefore, when you see everybody else doing whatever they're doing, you're thinking, but why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Why am I different? And so therefore, it kind of throws you off guard, because nobody explains it to young people. And I feel like young people are called at a very young age, but because they don't understand what it is and they don't have the guidance, they don't know.
Yeah, and they feel lost. And I was sort of in that place. Just lost, sad teenager, basically. Didn't know my purpose in the world. So then I started going to church, so through my cousin. And so that was like the beginning of my journey. And then I sort of became a Christian, and I had like a lot of really loving, kind, supportive people around me, and that was really what I needed. Who would just be there for me and really love me and put a lot into my life, and that really made a
Do you
big
think
difference.
because of the atmosphere? So I could see like the atmosphere all of a sudden changed everything, because
Yeah.
in your family it seemed like nobody was happy, everybody was sad. You kind of rubbed on that spirit of being sad and miserable, and it's because they hadn't found who they were, and so therefore they rubbed it in you. But then when you went to another atmosphere where people were so happy and God was involved, and you felt different, you felt at peace because you were in a different environment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just it was a really big change, and I started feeling God's love, and I started feeling Him say from the very beginning, "I'm going to call you to bring healing to people." And that was really interesting, because that
Was that God speaking to you?
yeah, I really felt Him say to me, "I'm going to call you." I felt it just like this voice in my head. "I'm going to call you. You're going to bring healing to people." And so I knew from the beginning, like, my story would be something that God would use. But I
It's a healing tool.
I was still very much at the beginning then. So so then, like, literally not much long after that, I slipped 3 discs in my back, which is like unheard of.
How did you do that?
They have no idea.
How?
I was in crazy pain because the discs were poking on my spinal cord, so I was crying, and my parents had to rush me in hospital. So they rushed me in hospital, the doctor looked at an x-ray and was like, "You must have a tumour because you're too young to have slipped 3 discs. Like, that's not possible. No one at your age slips 3 discs. Like, it's not heard of in medical records." So he was like, "You obviously got like some tumour." And I was like, freaking out.
How old was you then?
20.
Wow.
And so I was just kind of, and so he then put me through an MRI scan, and that was quite traumatic. So I went through the MRI scan, and then he kind of, because I'm claustrophobic, so I was like, "Get me out of here." It's a bit like sticking someone in a coffin. It's awful.
Because they close you completely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a coffin. It's like being in a coffin. So that was horrible. And so that happened, and then they were like, "Okay, we see you slipped 3 discs." But so I started losing feeling down my leg, and they were like, "Okay, well, we're worried about the damage to your spinal cord." So they said, "We have to give you emergency surgery." And so I was kind of like, no, and they're like, "Well, it's that or be paralysed." So I was like, "Oh, hard choice. Okay, take me into hospital." And so, because eventually the disc would have severed my spinal cord. So they put me in hospital. They had to move my operation forward because I started losing feeling in my leg. And then it was quite a traumatic operation, because obviously they drilled holes through my spine, and then they put metal rods in my back and 6 metal screws in my spine.
Did they know that you had an eating disorder? Because obviously, I guess if you haven't been eating for so long, like the blood in your system is not flowing as much as it's meant to be, or it didn't have any impact?
I didn't know. Yeah.
So they just... Wow, because that could have been dangerous.
Yeah, I lost a lot of blood, so I had to have a blood transfusion. So it was very painful, because obviously, because I woke up, and you can imagine how your back feels when you wake up if someone's been drilling holes through your spine and into your hips. So I was like, I'm in pain. And because it was emergency surgery, they put me in the wrong ward, because they didn't have space for me in an orthopedic ward. So I was stuck in like a female ward for like, I can't remember. But the nurses, they had no idea how to treat me, because they weren't used to working in orthopedics. So I made a lot of mistakes, and I was often in loads of pain. I'd be like screaming in pain. It was horrible. They didn't give me enough morphine injections. I did get morphine, but not enough. So it was quite a traumatic experience. And so I was doing better, because I had become a Christian, and I was feeling loved, and I was in a supportive community. And so I was eating alright. Like, it wasn't a huge problem. I was kind of happy-ish. But this really threw me back. So when
I went back to square one.
Yeah, when I came out of the hospital, I literally crashed. I was just like, I was at the end of myself. It just brought me back to square one. So I just stopped eating altogether. I became like a stick. And I remember calling my youth pastor, or I can't remember, he called me, and he was like, how are you? And I was like, I'm not doing so well. And I was just like,
Was that that moment of
blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh my gosh. And they were really worried about me because they could see how thin I was. And he was just like, you're beautiful and God loves you and it's going to be okay. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, blah, heard it all before. I just was quite hard and a bit bitter about my life, really. I felt like I'd had a hard time. And so I was sort of lying, and so this was the moment that sort of changed my life. So I put the phone down, went back to my bedroom, and went back to lie down in bed because I had to learn to walk again. So it was quite a long healing process. And because I was told I can never play sport again, I can never bend again. I'm not really supposed to run very far either. So that's quite a heavy things I have to hit you at 20, Great, the rest of my life I'm never going to be able to do any of these things ever again.
So you've had...
That's kind of depressing.
So you've had an interesting journey, 12 years old, trying to figure out who you were, coming from a family that didn't really seem to care about you because they were also going through whatever they were going through, and then finding yourself in a place where you felt like, wow, okay, second chance, but then again realizing that you haven't coped with all of these issues. So I guess this is why everything came back crashing at you, and thought like, okay, oh my gosh. And so literally hearing your story, it almost feels as if you never had your childhood at all.
No, I didn't really. But yeah, so, which was sad, I guess. But yeah, so then what happened was, I went to my room, lay down on my bed, and I was very upset, as you can imagine. So I was lying there, and then I literally had a vision. Like, this has only ever happened to me maybe once or twice, but, and I literally saw Jesus, like, looking at me. Like, I saw him, I can't even begin to explain it. And
how did he look like?
He was looking at me, but he was really sad, and I could see what he saw. Like, there was just this broken, sad little girl who was like really skinny and just wasting away, really, and in pain. And his heart was like breaking, and he just started crying, like there were tears like running down his cheeks. And it was the first time in my life I really felt love. Like, I counted God's love. I was like, oh, I'm loved. Like, I matter. He cares. Like, before I just felt very forgotten and very lost. And so that even though I was a Christian, I had become a Christian, I didn't really like meet God's love, if that made sense. So, and I hadn't learned to love myself either. And that was quite a big journey. And so when I grasped that, everything changed. So from then onwards, I was eating again. I was a lot less depressed. And then it was just a journey from then onwards of just kind of getting prayer at church, and then there was a day where I just felt depression break off me, and getting prayer about eating, and that just left. But I think also a lot of it, because it's sort of like it's a fruit, but the idea is you need to get to the root. So the main cause for me was sort of self-hatred. So I was having to deal with that root and being like learning to love myself, learning to accept God's love for me, learning to see my identity, and that I'm beautiful, and that I'm loved, and I'm accepted, and I have a purpose. And so once I started speaking all this over my life,
compassion.
Yeah, I did a lot of confessing.
Like daily confession.
Yeah, it was huge. And I spoke a lot of scriptures over my life about God's love, and just said it until I believed it. And that was sort of what changed. So I then changed from someone who wanted to harm myself to like someone who learned to love myself. And now I'm kind of like, oh, I'd hate that idea of harming myself. Like, that's not very nice. So that's quite a big thing. But I think it's the sort of road to recovery. It has to come from our own choice that we make, to choose to not believe the lies that we think about ourselves, and to choose to confess truth over ourselves, and be positive. Because in the end, like, I think the biggest battle is in our mind. So we've got to really be proactive in kind of what we think, what we choose to believe.
That's right. Right. So would you say, this is an amazing story, because we hear a lot of people say second chance, second chance, second chance. And Belle, you have changed the whole perception of second chance, and you literally, your moment changed that very day you encountered Jesus. And in life, regardless of whatever you try to do, I guess if you haven't had that real encounter that is going to change your life, you can never be free. And I guess for you, the encounter that you needed was God. Like, he had to reveal himself to you to know that there is love there, that you are not alone, that there is a Father out there. And your second chance, if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be where you are today. And you feel like that moment that changed your life was that moment. You had a phone call from your youth pastor, and then that moment you went to your bed and you laid down, and that was the very moment your life changed again. So, Belle, that means that everything that you went through, God wanted to show you something. And do you think through that process you have seen what God is showing you? And do you feel like maybe this is the reason why you want to come and share your story, because God has showed you why you went through what you're going through, to give somebody else another chance out there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think from the very beginning, I felt that God would use my story to bring healing to other people and to bring hope to other people, because, you know, when you're stuck in that kind of thing, you kind of go, is there hope for me? Will I ever get better? And I lived like that for a while. I was just kind of, you know, am I ever going to learn to love myself? Am I ever going to be free of these things? And it was a huge battle. And so it's just, it's good to be able to say, yes, you can do it. I did it. You can do it. I did it with God's strength and help, not my own, but I think that, I guess I just want to give people hope. That's kind of really my main reason for sharing my story. And just... Is
it the help through the encounter that you had, or the help in your story to let them know that despite everything else, you can have a second chance in life? Or is it the fact that you encountered God and he's the one that was able to help you come through? Which part of your story would give that person that hope that their story can change? Because speaking to you, it looks as if you tried everything else, but in that very moment you encountered God. That's all you needed. You looked for love in different places. You were not accepted anywhere you went, and that meant that the only love that you can get was the love from God. So would you say that's what we're all fighting against our identity and finding the love of Christ in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, that was what changed me. I mean, yes, in some ways there are sort of, people can do self-help things and they can, you know, speak truth over themselves and kind of reprogram their brain to believe, you know, I'm worthy, I'm accepted, I'm special. But really, the revelation can only come from Jesus, like the real, true knowing that you're loved, because no one loves us like he does. And so no human can really give us that love that he can give. And so, I also think is that it's very important to be honest. That's one of the also reasons I'm talking about this, because, you know, whether whatever eating disorder it is, it could be bulimia, anorexia, it could be like my one, which is more self-harm. If you're not honest, you don't bring it out to the light, you can't get freedom. And so that's the key. Like, we need to encourage people to get help, because the biggest thing with these things is that girls hide it. You know, they hide it, they don't show their mom, they don't tell anyone, and it's all secret. And so there's no freedom in secrecy. But when you're, okay, this is my issue, help me, and people can come around you and you can get help, then you're on your way to freedom.
I like what you said, Belle, because I think I can relate to your story. Like, I remember back in the days I went through so many things. I guess my thing was wanting to be accepted, and I guess finding love in men, and that never really worked. I tried so many different, you name it, white, brown, black. They never gave me that love that I didn't want and I wanted. And I guess for me as well, like what really changed my life was my encounter with God. So I can relate to your story, and I think whenever you're going through whatever you're going through, just know that you're not alone. Just know that there's somebody out there that's watching over you, that loves you. You might not know him, you might not know who he is, but just know that he knows you, because he's a father. He's your father. He created you, and you just have to just let go of what you think you know, and just allow healing to take place, and just allow God to just reveal himself to you, because I believe God is our healer, and I believe that healing can only come from him, because he's the one that's created us. And I've heard of so many stories of God healing people who've suffered from cancer. Literally there was a girl who had 30 days to live because of cancer, but she believed in God's healing and power, and she said, no, I'm not going to die, I'm going to be healed by God's power. And for that encounter, she's over so many years now, she's alive, and she's actually in America studying right now. And that's what I mean. So sometimes I think we're too afraid to embrace that one love that will always love us for who we are. We look for love in different places, and we want to be accepted. It's like you feel empty. You can have all the money in the world, you can have everything in the world, but inside of you, you feel unhappy, you feel empty. That's because there's something missing, and that love is the love of Christ. And I believe that nobody can ever love you the way he does, because like what Belle said, your dad couldn't love you the way he wanted to love you at that time, because he didn't have that love that he wanted. So it was a thing of like, he had to, as much as he loved you, he didn't love you the way you wanted to be loved. So you had to find your own love for God, who loves you unconditionally. And I guess through that love that you found through God, you were able to transfer back that love to your Father.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And how has that been ever since?
It's been amazing in the sense of another reason I would not recommend eating disorders is because
it's banned for life.
They can cause health problems. So because if you're cutting your body from nutrients that it needs, you're starving yourself, there will be long-term consequences. And so I got very sick, where I got chronic fatigue syndrome for about 4 years of my life. I was really, really weak, really ill. I couldn't leave the house. And my dad got retrenched at the same time. I was a Christian then, so so he got retrenched, and then so him and I were stuck at home together, and my parents, my mother and my brother were out at work. So and I was too weak to leave the house. I was very, very, very weak, very sick. So I just but I was also a bit bored. So when I was awake, which wasn't very often, I would then find my dad, and he'd be reading a book, and I'd be like, hello Dad, what are you doing? And then I'd start talking to him. And so every day I would talk to him, and I would talk to him, and I would talk to him for hours, so I had nothing else to do. And so we started building a relationship that we didn't have. And I really felt like God used that illness and my dad being retrenched, us being together for the first time in our lives. It was just the two of us. We went for lunch together. We'd never done this ever in our lives. He took me out for lunch. He'd never done that before. Just me and him. It just never been like that. And so that was amazing. And so although that was a very hard 4 years of my life, which I don't want to ever go through again, definitely God used that to restore my relationship with my dad. So before I was sick, I didn't really feel like I had a dad. When I got over the illness, I had a father. And that's quite an amazing story. God really restored that relationship, which is amazing.
Any advice that you want to give to anybody, any ladies out there going through eating disorder, and how they can receive their healing?
Well, firstly, especially if they're very young, like I was a teenager, think about the long-term effects on your body, because you will pay for it later on in life, because you're really abusing your body.
How can they receive their healing as well?
Okay, well, first I'd say, especially for teenagers, is think about the long-term effects on your body. That you'll lower your immune system, you're damaging your body, you're starving your body of nutrients that it needs, and you could end up with health problems in the future, like I did. And also, it's important to get help. So the minute that you know that you have this problem, you need to speak to someone and be like, okay, I need help. And I think a lot of people don't, because it works in the sense of like, oh, okay, I'm bulimic, I can still eat, but look, I'm skinny. But like, it's a serious disorder that's not to be taken lightly, because of what the damage you're doing to your health. And that's pretty massive. And also just because, we don't have to live according to the world's definition of beauty. It's all about accepting who you are. Accept who you are. Love yourself the way you are, instead of trying to be everybody else, and there's only one you that you can be. Try be you, the only you there is in the world, instead of being everyone else. Get help, get prayer, find loving people around you to support you. And ask God to reveal His love to you, and ask God to show you how He sees you, because that will change everything.
Oh, fantastic. Like I said earlier on, that Belle story is definitely going to change your life, and hearing it talk, I'm just having goosebumps all over my body, because her story is just amazing. From a lady who suffered a lot of issues from the age of 12, peer pressure, rejection, and being bullied, not being accepted, but because she finally found that one thing that would love her the most, and that was through Jesus Christ. And that is just an amazing story, because we don't hear a lot of stories of how people's life have turned around and how people's life have changed. And I believe that it's never too late for you to receive your healing, and I believe that you have to believe that you are healed, and you have to be honest with yourself that first of all, you need help, and that you need to get better. And if you're not honest with yourself, like what Belle said to you, you can't really get that help that you need. And don't beat yourself. Don't try so hard to fit in. Who cares? Just be with the people that love you the most. Just go out there and be with people. Even if it means that you only have that one person in life that loves you, let it be so, because guess what? There's another unconditional love out there that is the love of God, and He's there. And how do you get to know God? All you need to do is know that He is God, and just know that He died for your sins and that He loves you very much. And all you need to do is literally just sit down and just say, Lord, help me. Lord, heal me, because healing these days can only come from God. And I've heard of stories where people have encountered God's healing, and they've literally been healed through my story as well. And I can so relate to Belle's story, and definitely God will give you a second chance. And Belle has been given that amazing chance in her life. Before we end, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
I'm doing a few different things, but currently my passion is, I've been doing something called Let's Talk About It.
And we're talking about it right now.
So I guess kind of to use the things that I'm passionate about to help people. So things like chronic fatigue, because obviously I suffered from that, chronic pain. People have been through trauma, like I have with my operation. People have been through eating disorders, or self-esteem problems, lack of self-love. All that kind of thing is sort of what I'm trying to talk about, and Let's Talk About It. So it's quite exciting.
Where can we reach you?
On Facebook, I'm Let's Talk About It. But probably I've got a YouTube channel as well, but You kind of only find it if you write, let's talk about it, Belle Watkins. And probably Facebook would be the same, let's talk about it, Belle Watkins, because then it'll find me, because there are quite a lot of let's talk about it around.
Okay.
And then Twitter, it's @Belle_Watkins. And then obviously the name of it is called Let's Talk About It.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And this brings us to the end of our topic, because we can sit here and go on and on, because she's got an amazing story. And if you're listening to our show and if you've been affected by what we've been talking about and you need guidance and you need help, you can send us an email to secondchancestalkshow@gmail.com. I'll say it again, secondchancestalkshow@gmail.com. Just tell us your name and you know what you're going through right now, how you're affected by the story, and one of our professional counselors will be able to reach out to you, so you can leave your name and your number and we'll be able to get through to you and see how we can help you. And just know that you are beautiful, and just know that you're not alone. Just know that God loves you, and just know that there's a second chance out there in life. And I'm glad and excited to be sharing our second series with you, which is called Eating Disorder. And we were listening to Belle and your co-host of the Second Chances Talk Show, Vivian Moyo, and soon you'll be hearing my story about how I had a second chance in life. And yeah, so see you guys shortly. Bye.